cost versus value of the research and criteria, things that I needed to hit in order for it to make sense as a business. Setting up finance up front. I mean, this is something that I wish people would, I mean,
Right.
they're like, yeah, but the top line's great. It's like, who cares? Like, I could sell anything for $1 and it's going to lose money. That's great. So I think learning about growing the bottom up, not top down.
Welcome to 7 to 8, our special series on 7 to 8 figure entrepreneurs. In this special series, I interview $1 million, some $10 million, and even some $1 million business owners who uncovered their twists and turns in their entrepreneurial adventure in order to help you to avoid the potholes and stick to the fast track. Welcome now to center stage, our next special guest. Hey there, peeps. This is Michelle Nedelec, and I'm super excited that you're here with us today because I'm here with my most amazing guest, Jeremy. Jeremy, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Yeah, great to hang out today.
Awesome. So give everybody the highlight of who you are and what you do for fun.
What I do for fun.
Wow,
so I'm a serious. Well, what I do for a living is actually what I do for fun. So I've kind of transformed being an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, into what I do for a hobby, really. So it's really turned in more to a lifestyle for me. So I built and sold 8 tech companies. I had a career in marketing and communications forever, and king of side hustle, love to build things on the side and grow them and turn that into my full-time career. And then built a bunch of tech companies in almost every industry. And now I travel and have fun and build things. So it's just a lot of fun.
Nice. So what is it about starting tech companies that first gave you the bug?
I don't know if it was starting tech companies. I think it was starting something and just seeing it kind of take a life of its own, right? My first companies were really rudimentary, solving problems for myself. And then over time, that just kind of gradually built into like a real business. So those problems got solved for other people, and I added value, and it brought income in. And I was like, wow, this is fun. And I had a career. So it was like come home from work, and instead of, we didn't have Netflix back then, but turning TV on, watching TV, I was building something. So whether it was a tech company or some kind of invention or another failed idea, I was always building. And I think for me, that became my hobby. So I think most of my interest just kind of revolved around seeing something go from ideation all the way to like, wow, somebody's actually using this idea. It's actually bringing value to somebody. They're happy with it. The first one was like furniture. So it really, that wasn't really the ideal scenario. I was just trying to solve a problem for myself. I had an apartment with no furniture in it. And I was like, how do I get low cost furniture? Met someone, turned into a wholesaler, and that turned into a relationship where I was selling friends and family really low cost furniture. And then it turned into a garage and then a website. And it kind of built from there. So, but I've been doing it since I was a really young child. So it's always been a passion. And I think some of that came from my parents, just watching them go through like multi-level marketing companies. And like, they were always serial entrepreneurs, but just never really got one off the ground. So I think it was just watching them time and time again. I was like, oh, that's what you're supposed to do. So that became became the theme for me.
I love it. Well, growing up, I always thought that kids that had entrepreneurs as parents had it the best because at the dinner table, the conversations were way different than they were for us. But what do you think your parents might have been missing? What's that kind of key that they were missing that they never really launched? And you're like, oh, launch.
I don't actually know. I mean, I think they got indoctrinated into like prepaid legal services and Amway Global. And like, I think they got into the hype and rah-rah of Love the Cup, the hype and rah-rah of what they could build and that they were going to have this financial freedom. And I think a lot of those companies are designed for only a couple of people to make a lot of money. And I'm not, not discounting that people do it, but I think they just kind of followed the path and invested in it. And then it would fizzle out. And my father still operated a car wash at the time. So he had a detail shop, and that was like somewhat successful. I mean, like carried him through things, but it wasn't really like the ultra successful business that he had set out to build and create. My mother always tried something new. She's like, I learned how to sew, so I'm gonna make pillows. Throw pillows, and that's gonna be a big business. And odds and ends things. My father got some kind of like trinkets catalog and was selling. I mean, there was always something, right? So there's always a new business. And I was able to see that early on,
Yeah.
where they were trying to just find a different way to, make an income on top of it and have some kind of lifestyle along with it. I would say that they didn't end up having that kind of lifestyle, but they tried really hard. So I think in general, that's really what swayed me when I was really young. And I think that just really got embedded in the way I do things.
Well, huge kudos to mom and dad because they deserve it. And they had the right platforms, Amazon makes it a lot easier to be able to get into the so-called trinket business, or for, Wayfair for mom to be able to be selling pillows, or Etsy or something like that. But to me, the business strategy, the fundamentals of them, there are very different business models being set up to be able to go, oh, I want furniture in my house, let's start a company, is not always a moneymaker when it comes to the strategy for which you can set up a $1 million business. Talk to me about that for a little bit, if you will, about kind of what are the fundamental differences between a passion project, I'm going to call them. You want to go out, you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to have freedom in your day, that's awesome. But the fundamentals just not there. The strategy is not there. The system isn't there to be able to scale at mass, to be able to create the money that somebody wants.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, there was a lot of scale issues in my earlier companies because I wasn't looking at all of the things that I should. I think part of it was that I didn't have mentorship early on. It was just me trying to figure out how to make things work. And so I was piecemealing things together and didn't really have guidance on what I should be using as criteria beforehand. I wasn't doing a lot of upfront research. I was just diving both feet because I thought it was a great idea and, put all my chips on the table to make it happen. And I was always bootstrap founded, right? It was my hard-earned money for my career, and I was taking that money and investing it into my idea. So I did have some thought into it, but I think as I've had 8 exits, I think I've learned what for me, and this is only for me, I can't say that this works for everyone. I have criteria that are really important to be able to scale something while I still have some balance. So I think a lot of people will go, it needs to meet all these criteria to hit this magic number, but the magic number is great. And then when you get there, you're going to go, do I love what I do? So there's a point of like, do you want to build something that's going to be sustainable long-term in the way that you operate as a human and what you want to create for your life long-term? Or is it just money for money's sake? But my early businesses were all just about money. I've identified a gap. I found how to, fill that gap with a solution that was very low cost. And I knew that I could charge more for it and bring value to the customer. And to me, that was the first beginning stages of the first criteria. Beyond that, it turned into, well, how much is this going to, take long-term in terms of time, effort, and energy, capital, if you will, to scale? And I didn't have that criteria earlier on. How big is the market? Things that I wish I would have asked the question early upfront. And even with all of that said, I had a business called iLower BP. It was a blood pressure lowering application. It was a isometric hand grip squeezing exercise, and it was an exercise, if you will, that helped people reduce blood pressure. And I spent a ton of money on it because it was a great idea. The market was there, the need was there, the cost structure was lower than drug. I was like, okay, I can hire this contract research organization to help get this through the gates and actually have a clinical trial to show that it actually worked. And I did all of that to bring it to market, and no one spends $1 on preventative maintenance. So with all of the research and homework that you can do, the more you can do it to a degree that it doesn't hold you back from moving forward, the better. Right. So I think that became a criteria, is like cost versus value of the research and criteria, things that I needed to hit in order for it to make sense as a business. Setting up finance up front. I mean, This is something that I wish people would, I mean, they're
Right.
like, yeah, but the top line's great. It's like, who cares? Like, I could sell anything for $1 and it's going to lose money. That's great. So I think learning about growing the bottom up, not top down, was something that became a piece of criteria for me and my successes after. And then scalability. And that was one that I struggled with, even in more recent ventures, right? What you think can scale doesn't always necessarily equate to real world. So getting some beta out there, being able to test the market, get voice of real customer, not what you read in a market research report somewhere that you purchased, getting it out in front of people and testing that they're actually willing to pay it. And in some cases, even getting a credit card number as a hold to like, how serious are you really? Not just some friends who are in the business who said, oh, I'd buy that for $300 because you're my buddy. So those are the things that became criteria. And then later on, so after a couple of the other companies, then it became, where can I find recurring revenue? How does this fit into my lifestyle, and what role am I actually going to play in the organization? Because I think everyone who starts a company thinks they have to be the CEO, and they don't. And, you know, how good are you at day-to-day operations, and how many hats are you willing to wear? So these are things I now look at when I'm starting something. And unfortunately, I have this like long list of things I want to build. so, so I'm always like, okay, does it check all these boxes for the longevity of me being invested in it to a degree that I'm willing to bleed for the company, if you will? Because I think that's the piece that does fall apart, is people look at, hey, it makes sense financially. Hey, it makes sense in terms of workload, and it makes sense in terms of what I'm going to give to the company. But is that really what you want to build? Because when you get to that $1 million number, you're like, okay, great. And I'm making $20,000 a year doing it. You're like, I don't know if that's really what I've set out to build. The other thing too, and I don't know if you talk about this at all when you talk about 7 and 8 figure businesses, is that just revenue? Are we talking about valuation? Because what I have learned for me is that, and this is just me, so I hope everyone takes this with a grain of salt, I'm a terrible operator. Like, that's not I don't want to operate a company. Like, I like to build things. I know where I fit in terms of getting it to profitability. I have systems in place and an amazing team of people that come in and fill roles that I know need to be handled. But then I don't want to do the day-to-day operations. And so I have to build a company where I can put someone in place to operate. And at some point, because I have 50 million other things I want to build, I build to exit. That's just me. I don't think everybody should look at it that way. But I also think, and I'm finding this as I get more and more involved in M&A and helping friends and other people with their exits, people don't know what their business is worth long term. So they're like, well, I'm not taking an income. I'm taking a very small income. I'm growing it. And then they're like, yeah, but I'm only making like $50,000 a year. And it's just brutal. I'm like, yeah, but what is the company doing? Well, we did, 2 million EBITDA last year. And it's like, oh, okay. And you're at a what valuation, like 6 or 8? Then they don't realize, like, hey, you're going to make it on the back end of this thing if you decide to exit. On a total reverse side, I see people who build things that have a valuation of 1 year or 2x. And you're like, yeah, that's going to be that you're marrying this thing. This isn't, you don't get to date this business. This is you, or a brand focused business where, like a doctor, for example, the people go to a doctor for the doctor, right? It's hard to sell that business because you are the business. So there are businesses like that where people will start them and they're the coach or they're the business, and it's really difficult to replicate. There are some tech things that can be done to, sell courses and other things, but it's not for everyone. So those are long-winded. Those are my things that I look at to try to get to the magic number.
Yeah. And what I'd like to help people avoid is having a kind of branded business that has no valuation and no income. It's like they're all waiting
all
for this. Oh,
negatives.
but it's going to pay out at the end. It's like, no, it's not. So not only are you making 50 grand a year now, and you're not going to be able to sell it for anything. In fact, you're probably going to have to liquidate, which is going to cost you. So how do we help people to kind of figure out that there's, well, let's back up the bus a little bit, because I think there is the passion projects. If you know that that's why you're going into it, is it's a passion project, you love it, you want to spend your entire day doing this, and then if it never paid off, you'd want to do it anyways. Okay, great. And you'll figure out a way to make money off it. And then there's the, okay, we have an idea that's fantastic, and I think it's got some clout, and I think I could turn it into a business. And like, does it have feet? Can I talk to Jeremy and figure that out? And then there's, okay, this is $1 million idea, but I don't want to run this. I have nothing to do with this, but I know we can make it happen. And there's probably 27 other examples like that. But how do you kind of help people to wrap their head around, like, what's the first step? Like, you got to back up the bus and go, what's the first thing first?
Well, every deal is like a snowflake at that point, because I think it has more to do with the people. What you said, the first one, that for option A, if you will, I don't recommend a lot of people take their passion and turn it into a business, unless you're willing to ruin what you're passionate about, because it can quickly come to that. It just depends on your tolerance level for agitation. Some people have it, some people don't. So I highly recommend that people don't turn their passions into businesses. Now, with that being said, that doesn't mean it doesn't make a great business. It can. And then you really enjoy it and it's successful, and there is no, you have like a really unique stress tolerance that a lot of people don't have. Like, great, like, do it. And I think you'll love that longer term. And when you have hurdles, you'll like push through because you're so passionate about it. That, I think, is 99% of getting to the 7 and 8 figure for me. The middle one is everything. You know, I've done some diligence. I have some interest. I'm going to continue to do some research, but I want to start moving the ball forward. That's a great place to be. The latter, probably not so much. I can build this thing that makes a ton of money, but go ahead and do it, but you're just going to walk away from it anyway. There's probably, the second you have some kind of pain, which you're going to have, like, if you have a painless business, congratulations. This is like a lightning strike. I just don't, I don't believe that that's possible for everyone. You know, somebody invented the Snuggie and that was a cool thing, and then it blew up. Like, that's a one that is a lightning strike business. So I can't say that works for everyone. The middle ground is, I have some passion. I'm willing to put time, effort, energy into it. And that's stage one. And then I would immediately do a litmus test of real world customers and real financials. And I mean, dig in and get the exact cost for the things you know you're going to need to just MVP operate. Minimum viable product to market, where you can see a return on investment slowly and invest in the things you want, because I think everybody wants everything up front. And so then as the business morphs, which they all do, right? You start one thing and then it kind of, you're like, okay, it's not what I thought it was going to be. Then you have to like constantly reassess. So having that structure of financially, does it still make sense? Time, effort, and energy, does it still make sense? Like, having that as a starting point is fantastic. And then just having to stick it out. So like, how long are you willing to put time into this to discover whether or not it's a valuable business? And that could also just be age of the person who's building the company. It could, I mean, there's a lot of, you know, variables here, which is why I said it would be very different for every person I talk to, right? Like, what is it that I think fits someone specifically to get to that magic number? I don't know. I'd have to like really understand the business and what they're trying to accomplish. And I don't have a magic formula. I wish I did. I have one for me because it's taken multiple. So I've had 8 exits. And by the way, that doesn't make them successful exits. Just because I've, you know, built and sold a company doesn't make it a success. They could be exits for, you know, other purposes, whether it's, you know, competitive exit where you're kind of forced out. It could be an exit because of, just difficult business environment. Luckily, I've had the exits on them, which was great. And it's the ones I don't talk about, the maybe 50 or 60 other companies that I failed at. That's where I learned. These are things I won't ever do again. These are business lines I don't want to be involved in, whether it's, for ethical reasons or for, financial reasons, or even just regulatory and compliance issues. Like there's always something that gets in the way of what's going to get me to the point that I want to early on in the phase of ideation, right? So I'd say first step, which is what you were saying, is if you have the idea and you've done some diligence, then I would take it to the next step of really putting together a financial needs analysis. Like, what is this going to take to get it to first sale or even to a point of profitability? And then add 30% to that. Like, be super conservative and then go for it. Because there's no replacement for actually doing it.
Mm-hmm. And you'll never know until you actually do it. And then you will learn lots, which it kind of cracks me up. Everybody goes into business wanting the MVP experience. And then it turns out that MVP stands for something completely different. It's like, oh yeah, we've totally created a minimal viable.
Yeah, no,
it's like not the most valuable player experience I was looking for, but
yeah.
it's business.
I mean, it's weird though. I keep saying sell it before you got sales cures all things.
Right.
As long as it's profitable sales cures a lot. So it's a lot easier. And you see this, I've seen it a million times more now. And that's why Kickstarter even began, right? Because you could sell the idea before it even existed, and you'd have a back order to launch your business successfully day one. And people don't do that because they want the perfect product, and they want, they're trying to perfect everything before they launch. And I get it. Like, you can also build a really bad reputation by selling something you don't have. So there is a balance here, but I would say go sell it, go sell your idea, get it off the ground, get credit card numbers in the system, and be prepared to, like, hey, on launch, we're charging all these people. Like, I think those are the types of businesses that have way more success because they start day one with the best problem in the world. And that's, I have customers. Where I think a lot of people just don't do that. They're like, I'm going to build this thing, and then once it's built, people will start. And so that's kind of the micro piece of it. I think if you're at the point of scale, this is a whole different discussion, right? So if you're like, hey, I have a business off the ground and I'm trying to scale, it's the simplest things that people don't pay attention to, at least from my experiences, that is the difference between scale or not scale. And a lot of that is just people, and business owners do this more than everybody. They got to get out of their own way. They overcomplicate and they don't launch. And so it's like, okay, when this is done, then we'll do that, because that's the perfect order to do things. And it's like, just pull the trigger. There's nothing holding back this being successful right now and scaling today. So that's really the difference between them. And I often think, I wish I had like a summit of people who are just at that point, because when you start going through like their waterfall of things that they want, their cadence of things they have to get done before they really like full scale launch, it's like almost 99% unnecessary. so it's like, just pull the trigger, just go do the thing on the last where you start scaling, and then you'll work your way back to perfection, which never comes.
Absolutely. And I don't know particularly what it is. It seems so terrifying at that precipice, because people are like, oh, but if I scale now, the system's going to break. I'm not going to be able to obtain fulfillment, for the demand. I'm not going to be able to, like, the systems. We want things to grow systematically. And I think people overuse the word scaling right now, which kind of drives me crazy, but it's not systematically growing really fast. It's scaling, which it means that something is going to break, but you're going to figure it out how to fix it, but you can't figure out how to fix something that you don't know is broke yet.
Yeah, we do spend a lot of times overcoming hurdles that don't even exist. Well, what happens if, it's like the fringe case business. Well, what happens if this happens? Like, what are you worried about? Has that happened? Well, yeah, like there was one customer, like, okay, Out of how many? 1,000. Why are we even talking about it? So and I can tell you, I've done, I mean, I still do this. I'm still like, we shouldn't do it that way because I want it to be great for everybody, should have the best experience possible. But it's not, it's not reality when it comes to scaling your business. So it is just push through, find the trigger points that are causing pain after they've caused pain. And then see how big of a problem is it really. And we're doing this today in a lot of the software that we build today. It's like, where's 80% of our problem? And those problems have gotten smaller and smaller and smaller. And I'm like, that's 80% of our problem. Like, that's the only problem we have left. It's like, that's great. That's a good place to be. Right. In my earlier businesses, I thought the world was going to come crashing down. Like you said, fulfillment, and like, well, what happens if we get 1,000-piece order? Like, we couldn't produce it fast enough. It's like, tell them you got a lead time. But we never had that. So I could see where this, and you're right. People use the word scale just way, way differently. I don't really use the word scale until the company is at a point of self-sustainability, right? Because when people say the word runway and scale, I'm lost. How do you have a runway and you're trying to scale? What you're trying to do is manage your cost structure, and then you can scale. I don't want to scale something that's hemorrhaging money. That doesn't make sense. Don't get me wrong. There is a business model for that. When you want to go public and you like debt and you're doing other things in finance, you're probably not, listening to me talk right now. You're probably like, an executive of $100 million a year company. Maybe they're listening to this saying, maybe we have a scale problem. Like, pause on scale, go look at operational efficiency, and then you can talk about scaling, because now you have an operational efficiency. And some companies try to do it simultaneously. That typically doesn't pan out very well, or they throw a ton of money at it and they end up with this huge non-reoccurring expenses to fix a problem that probably would have been a lot less. So, and that's maybe a publicly traded company game that, most of the world doesn't have to deal with. But the rest of the world does. If you want to scale something that's printing money. Don't scale something that's losing money. So fix the problem, then scale, and scale at that point. It doesn't need to be significant to scale. It just needs to be significant enough that it makes the impacts that you want, or it keeps up with the market. And I know there's probably a lot of tech founders saying, yeah, but I just got to keep up. That's a tough challenge to be in, right? That's a fast-paced environment. So it's not a one size fits all again.
I love it. So in a moment, I'm going to ask you about a Cinderella story of one of your clients. Before I do that, we're going to take a quick break.
Are you running a business over 7 figures but still struggling with technology headaches? Pay attention. You do not want to miss this offer. This podcast episode is brought to you by Awareness Strategies, who is offering a custom-built digital adoption roadmap for anyone running a business over 7 figures who's wanting to grow their business in the next 5 years. And it's not just a roadmap. They offer full implementation as well, if that scares the out of you. Check out awarenessstrategies.com/roadmap for more details today. The link's in the show's notes. Don't regret not doing this. Do it now. That's awarenessstrategies.com/roadmap.
So I'm super excited to hear about a Cinderella story of one of your clients.
So I think the best one I have is an accidental client. And it actually started the company that we now operate. It was a friend of mine, and he said, hey, I came from the credit card processing industry, which is pretty difficult industry to be in, because there's just 1 million people involved in payments, and there's 100 million people selling credit card processing. And it was just a tough industry. I did it as an ancillary business because we were in e-commerce. And I sold the company, or I sold all the assets out of the company back in 2016. And one of my friends said, hey, like, I'm just getting beat up with credit card processing fees. Can you just take a look at it? I know you were in it before. So I just read through it, and I was like, whoa, you're paying 8% for credit card processing? And he's like, yeah, it seemed off, but I don't know I can't read this thing. So I start reading through the statement, and I know what these statements look like. They do this on purpose. They make it almost illegible.
Mm-hmm.
So I start going through and I'm like, what are these feet? Like, what are these things? I was in the industry forever. I've never even heard of these fees before. So I just start like marking them up and I'm like, let's make a call. I'll do an analysis. It took me a couple hours to read through every transaction and categorize them because interchange, there's like 3,000 different rates and fees. So I do all this. I get on the phone with this processor. He's like, just say you work for the company. So it's like, hey, I'm helping him with some accounting stuff. Does something seems wrong? Can I just go through this with you? And saved him $6,000 a month. And I mean, they don't do that much revenue, but it's a significant amount of money. And I was like, it took a phone call to just make them honest. Now I knew how much profit that the processor had to make. I wasn't trying to take that off the table. I wasn't trying to switch him. I wasn't trying to get him to sign up for a new service provider. They're all equally bad to say it that way. So I'm like, I could just help you. And he goes, dude, I owe you a bottle of wine. I was like, I think you owe me a little bit more than a bottle of wine, but all right. If a friend, help a friend, that's fine. So then he's like, hey, can you help my other friend? Yeah, sure. And that little love story started our company, which is, I recognized how predatory things could be. And the fact that I could help a small business owner, because so we were talking about research and diligence on an industry. When I started doing homework, it was $50 billion above the profit margin line. And it's all charged to small and medium business. Now, going back into what my first company, my furniture company, which is just hilarious that it's even aligned with this, that almost took me out of business because I got chargebacks because furniture showed up damaged and then people would charge it back. And you could only have a certain tolerance or threshold of chargebacks before you become a high risk merchant. And then you pay 10% or 12%. It's crazy. And so it just put me out of business from a perspective that I was like, oh, we only take PayPal now, or we only take, wire transfers or literally mail me a check. And that would have just killed an e-commerce company in the early phases of e-commerce. So now I'm looking ahead and I'm like, I need to help people. I have a great skill set. We built this machine learning tech that can do this thing. And the customer had by far the best experience with a very minimal impact to their day-to-day environment. And that to me was like, okay, great. That's not really the full Cinderella story because from that, there's an insurance group that I helped save $1 million. We're like best friends. Of course we are. So I think those types of deals that can be done now without making impact to somebody, it became more of like a passion project. Like I actually get to help people put money back in their pockets. So I think it was more a Cinderella story for me because I'm like, I love doing this. It's Robin Hood. Like right. we can take back from the big banks and processors the money that they've been and it's all, it's all small to medium companies, the ones that I really think need the biggest leg up. Like they're the ones that can't afford it. You go to the Fortune 50s, none of them are paying that. Like they have a sophisticated like supply chain management team, right? And vendor analysis people, and they're doing this every year, right? So it's a little different for them than it is a small company. So this became more of a Cinderella story for me. My customer obviously loves it, right? A great experience, didn't have to do much, very minimal impact to their day-to-day operations, knew they had a huge problem. We stepped in and helped, and now we monitor it. And so that became even better because now behind the scenes, no one knows how to read these things. If I handed one to you or even a forensic accountant and we said, hey, can you tell me, where all these fees are coming from? They can't even answer it. And there's no truth in lending box. Like, there's no regulatory body that's like, hey, by the way, you have to line item all these out. They don't even have to give you any detail. And a lot of them don't now because they don't want you to know what you're paying. It's just a really bad business.
So, and I think a lot of them are made up as they go anyways. So there is no definition of what it is.
No, and then,
it's like this month it'll be more because we need more money this month.
Well, and then everybody saw the news, like Visa settles, landmark case for billions of $20 billion to give money back to the merchants. They said, hey, we won't change pricing, which they did right away. And they settled on 4 basis points. That's 0.04%.
Which is
it'll
nothing.
cost them $20 billion globally, but then take the 600,000 companies in the US that take credit cards and divide that up. It's like $20 a year. No one cares. So everybody's like, wow, they're going to not change their pricing, which they said they weren't going to do, and they did it right away. So yeah, I mean, it became kind of a passion project, and now we've kind of relabeled it and turned it into a tool that can help. And so we've, leaned on a lot of CPAs and others that we've worked with over the years, and just to help their customers without impacting their day-to-day operations. That was the number one thing. We all have to, like I was saying this, you have to wear a billion hats when you're a founder. It's like another one you have to wear. Finance, even if you're the CFO, this is like not something they're going to look at. And even bigger companies. So we've helped some pretty significantly sized companies who are like, oh, we've done this already. We've already looked at it. We have a machine learning tool that does all of the indexing of where all of these rates and fees and categories are. There's thousands of them. So it's really difficult to manage. And they can just slide in 1 basis point here, 3 cents there. No one knows. And a lot of people are like, well, we're paying flat rate. Ours is really simple. And simple payments are the most expensive. That's like the easier they've made it for you, the more expensive it is. So anybody paying a flat rate's already just getting absolutely taken to court with so much in terms of extra fees. A debit card costs 0.25% on average. So if you're paying 2.97 when you go to your QuickBooks or your other systems to take payments, you're getting crushed. And so that's just one example, but there's just so many more. So yeah, that, like I said, I think that's my Cinderella story for me personally, and for my customer. Customer's super happy.
Nice. Now, I know our listeners are going to want more from you. How did they start that journey with you?
So you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active there. But our website is verifee.com. The company name is Payment Brokers, but we've kind of rebranded more recently. So we're going to be slowly migrating over to Verifee.
Nice. Love it. So we will, of course, have Jeremy's links in the show notes. So go ahead and scroll down, click on the links, open up in a new browser because we're not done yet. I would love to get in the whole conversation with you about the Walmarts and the Costcos of the world and how I think they're just giant consignment stores. And it
VMI
drives
is
me
a good
crazy
business.
Where people are going, oh, they'll take back anything. Of course they will. They have zero risk on that. It's not their products.
I mean, they're a real estate company. At the end of the day,
right.
It's a brilliant business, right? Vendor managed inventory is such a great opportunity. And I think that's going to continue, but so is Amazon. I mean, everybody's VMI at this point, right? And Amazon took it a step further. They're like, you can ship us inventory. We'll put it on our website, but you're going to pay us to hold it on top of it. So, I mean, right. It's unbelievable how that's merged from, we'll put it in our stores, but you got to take 100% return, and we're going to pay you 6 months later, maybe. And,
and 25% profit. And
it's unbelievable. Okay. So yeah, I'm in the wrong business from that side. but honestly, I think it made sense once upon a time. I think that there's an opportunity and a new dynamic for it to change back to an even better, system that would be even more lucrative for somebody managing inventory. At some point, wouldn't it be great if there was some kind of open source, Amazon, if you will?
All right.
And so eBay went down that path a long time ago. They charge a very nominal fee. Now they charge like 22% of your sale. I mean, everybody figured it out longer term, but it just opens it up for somebody to come in and swoop in and maybe do it again. So I don't take away from some future entrepreneur who's like, I got a better system.
Nice. We're looking forward to your new, better system.
I don't want to be involved in that business.
No.
Anything with inventory is that's one of my checklist no-nos. Like, does it have inventory? Yes, I'm out.
Especially any inventory that expires. No.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I did
Friends
that.
don't let friends open flower stores, restaurants. Right?
Unless it's a greenhouse. I don't know. I think there's a business there for sure, but I don't know. That's anything. We had a business in alternative health where we had products with shelf life. That was a nightmare. I mean, just managing that, but managing inventory is hard enough on its own. Managing expiration dates and on the inbound and outbound inventory is just, it's a picking and packing things and date order. So difficult. So not a business you want to get into, but look, somebody's got to do it. So somebody's going to do it.
It's going to be somebody's passion project, I guarantee you.
Also, back then, we didn't have, there's an app for everything now. There's a tech piece for everything. There's a layer of some other stack in the tech, stack of a business that can probably handle a lot of things I was doing manually back then. So maybe I'm just too old to say that. I wish I had those tools back then. Kind of like you were saying in the beginning. I'm sure if my parents had the tools that I have now, they could have done something totally different.
That's awesome. So I do get to ask you, at what point in life did you know you were special kind of crazy enough to think that you could become an entrepreneur?
6. I was 6 years old. Yeah, that's like embedded in my brain. So I there's a story on my website about my first lemonade stand, which took off and made thousands of dollars the first summer. And I took that money and invested it and bought, so it was like super wildly successful, except it got shut down by the health department. So you can laugh about that later because I was only 6 and I was like, I started with lemonade and then it turned into hot dogs and hamburgers. And then it turned into a pizza oven and a hot dog roaster. And like, I had a full thing and I made thousands of dollars that summer. And I took all of that money and my father was like, he borrowed me the first money to go to Aldi and buy all this stuff. He's like, you owe me money, my first investment plus interest. I couldn't figure. I'm like, we don't have an Uncle Sam. I don't know what you're talking about. So I took 100% of the money and put it into an arcade game. Mm-hmm. So I bought a stand-up arcade, and my father had like a detail shop. And this is, get to know your market. I put it in the detail shop thinking every kid's going to come here. I have a bunch of new friends that'll come in. They'll all feed it, quarters. Nobody. I mean, I was the best. Who goes with their parents to wash the cart, like the detail shop? Like nobody. Maybe 2 kids, and they were hard pressed to get a quarter from there.
Aww.
So it was my first failure, and I loved it. So I knew then I was like, I'm stuck. So I was hooked really, really early.
That was awesome.
And I still have the sickness. I don't know what it is, but you definitely have to be sick to want to do this.
Oh God, I
can
talk to you.
Fun when you have one baby that's successful.
Yeah,
it's just the best. I don't have kids. I don't know. We don't even have plants or pets, and I can tell you,
you have 8 businesses.
It's like watching a kid grow up. It's like it took its first steps today, and then next thing you know, it's like it's going to college. Like it's full ride. So for me, it's been a lot of fun watching my ideas, this crazy thing that I thought of, and now it's been adopted. And I've had businesses that have been adopted globally and are in things. I was in a boat not that long ago, and I was like, somebody's like, "Oh, have you ever seen the speed control thing?" I was like, "Yep." It was one of my old companies. So it's kind of cool to see something that you had an idea that turned into something that was, out in the wild, if you will. And so that's really become my new passion, is like, how do I get things out there and more now, things that can impact, like whether it's social impact or, the business environment impact, things that I had challenges with early on, I'm trying to solve now for the younger entrepreneur. That's even why I'm doing these podcasts. Like, I'm not on here really to promote anything. Yes, we have this, Verify business. I'm actually not trying to promote it because the last thing I need is for banks and processors to know I'm doing this. I don't think they're going to be super happy about me taking $50 billion off the table. But, I think this was more for me to give back to the community that gave me my hobby.
Nice. I love it. You've been absolutely awesome. And like I said, I could do this all day long, but I know how valuable your time is. So I will thank you for all that you have given me. And peeps, go down and click on the links. Jeremy, thank you again for your time. I appreciate it. And I know how valuable it is.
Yeah. Great to meet you.
Awesome. Peeps, this is Michelle Nedelec. Thank you for being here with us today. Be sure to subscribe to the show and share it with your friends. We love helping entrepreneurs grow. Thank you for listening to 7 to 8. If you're interested in upping your speaking game, be sure to connect with our guests with the links in the show notes and connect with me to see how we can help you get your tech done for you and help your speaking dreams come true.